Matt Goodwin wants to be an MP. He wants to represent the people of Gorton and Denton, and he wants you to believe he understands your struggles, your frustrations, and your community. But when you actually listen to what he says, and I mean really listen, something becomes painfully obvious. He doesn't talk about Gorton and Denton like it's a place where people live. He talks like it's like a vacancy like he's applying for. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how. So LBC have done quite a revealing interview, and it's doing the rounds from the by-election campaign. And Goodwin's segment is genuinely fascinating. Not because of what he says, but because of what he doesn't say. And the first thing that jumped out at me was the language. Listen how he describes Gorton and Denton.
Last night I knocked on the door of a lady. I said, Matt Goodwin, Reform UK, how are you going to vote? She said, no, I don't vote. I said, oh, how come? She said, I've been here 50 years. Everybody's promised me everything. They've never delivered. I don't believe in politics anymore. I don't believe in democracy anymore. And what I often find in this seat are people who have been so badly let down that they are so demoralised, and you can see it in their eyes, they have just completely checked out. They've completely given up.
You catch that? This seat. Not this community, not this neighbourhood, not even this constituency. This seat. And look, politicians use that term all the time, and I get it, but it's supposed to be something that they say behind closed doors in Westminster, not something you say to a camera while you're pretending to care about the people who live there. A seat is something you win. A community is something you serve. And the way Goodwin talks makes it abundantly clear which one of those he's interested in. And this matters because Goodwin doesn't live in Gorton and Denton. He's never lived in Gorton and Denton. He lives in Hitchin in Herefordshire, which, for those of you who don't have a map handy, is about 200 miles south of Manchester. His big connection to the area is that he went to University of Salford and once delivered pizzas around Burnage in a clapped-out Ford Fiesta. That's his pitch, that's his roots. He delivered Domino's 20 years ago, and now he wants to be their MP. Hannah Spencer, the Green candidate, who brilliantly put the hustings that when she called him out as an academic, bust in from the south to spread the party's message of division, and, well, she's a plumber and she actually lives and works in the constituency. So the contrast couldn't be any starker. But here's the thing that really winds me up about Goodwin's interview. When you strip away the emotional delivery, what is he actually talking about? What specific tangible things does Matt Goodwin say he's going to do for the people of Gorton and Denton? Nothing. Literally nothing. Let's go through it. He talks about open borders.
That we live with open borders, that we have people coming into this country, we don't know who they are, we don't know what they believe, we don't know why they're here.
Then he pivots to Gaza.
They're talking more about Gaza than they are Gorton and Denton.
Which is kind of ironic because he's doing exactly the same thing, just with different topics. And then he rounds it off with drugs legislation.
Or they want the legalisation of drugs, which I can tell you, having known addiction and the problems of addiction very well through people in my life, would be a complete and utter disaster for places like Gorton and Denton.
So we've got immigration policy, foreign affairs and drugs legislation. These are all national government decisions. They're not something that a local MP for Gorton and Denton has any meaningful control over. A backbench MP what Goodwin would be, doesn't set immigration policy. They don't negotiate foreign treaties. They don't rewrite drug laws. And yet, that's all he talks about because those are the topics that get clicks on GB News and engagement on his Substack. He's not speaking for the voters of Gorton and Denton, he's performing for a national audience using their by-election as a stage. And do you know what is maddening? In the same piece, a bloke from Denton Hats, a local business owner who actually lives and breathes in this community, says something that completely exposes Goodwin without even trying.
We just need, I think, somebody who's going to put their arms around Gorton and Denton and say, I'm going to look after you, I'm going to make this place better, rather than tell us what the other people are going to do. And don't vote for them for that reason. Just concentrate on what you're going to do.
And Goodwin's interview is the absolute textbook example of that.
What the Greens will say is, well, I'm being divisive. My answer to that is, if you actually want to tear this country apart and you want to tear local communities apart, then arguably you should be doing what the Labour Party and the Greens are doing, which is they are basically both presiding over or demanding that we live with open borders.
His entire segment is just attacking Labour and the Greens on national talking points. Not a single word about local services, not a word about the markets in Longsight and that it's dying on its feet, not a word about the deprivation or the transport links. about getting Denton on the Metro link, which is something that actually came up at the hustings as a real local issue. Nothing, because he doesn't know, because he doesn't live there, because this isn't about Gorton and Denton for Matt Goodwin, it's about Matt Goodwin. And then there's the security thing, which I think deserves a lot more scrutiny than it's getting. At the Manchester Evening News hustings, Goodwin turned up with his personal security. The Labour candidate, Angeliki Stalika, called him out on it, pointing out the hypocrisy of a man who peddles divisive rhetoric, needing bodyguards to protect him from the consequences of that rhetoric. And Goodwin's response was to say that he faces real threats and blames Labour's immigration policies for making things dangerous.
Matthew, how can you be sat here with a couple of security guys following you around when this afternoon, just this morning, I was with a group of interfaith women representing our community who told me that our women in this constituency, they're scared to leave their house because of the rhetoric that you have been peddling. You know, you say that people like me that have lived here for over 30 years, this country is not ours and it belongs to us. This is not the Manchester.
Sorry, I need to have a response to that.
Have we done time?
We need controlled,
Just let the time
managed migration that supports our economy, combined with serious investments in our public services. Division is very easy, delivery is harder, and I am here to do the hard work.
Okay, I will allow Matt to reply to that.
I'm not going to be lectured to by a Labour politician from a party that consistently failed to investigate the mass rape and sexual abuse of working class kids in this country for 30 years. The reason women and girls are being sexually assaulted, largely, is because your government's running, a policy of open borders, which is putting women and girls at risk. And the reason I have security is because I have very real threats to my life in an area where people assure me everything is fine. And clearly, in some parts of this country, integration is not working as it should be. We need a responsible conversation about how this country is not working.
Now, putting aside the fact that he used a question about his security to pivot straight back to immigration, because of course he did, let's think about what he actually means in practice. If Matt Goodwin needs security to attend a hustings in the constituency he wants to represent, how exactly is he going to hold MP surgeries? You know, those things where constituents can come and sit in a room with their MP and talk about their problems, council tax issues, benefit disputes, housing problems, all the unglamorous bread and butter stuff that an MP is supposed to do. Is he going to have bodyguards flanking him while Margaret from Denton explains her damp problem? Is he going to run a security check on every constituent who books an appointment? And here's the thing. He already ducked out of the very first hustings on the campaign, the one organised by local voices at Gorton Methodist Church. He pulled out 30 minutes notice, claiming that he had serious concerns about the impartiality of the organisers. The organisers, by the way, whose most radical activity appears to have been hosting a wazzling event with a mulled wine, apple juice and winter silliness. Terrifying stuff. Every other candidate managed to show up, but Goodwin couldn't face a community hustings in a church. And this is the man who's going to fight for you in Westminster. Because we've seen this before, haven't we? You know exactly how it ends. Nigel Farage did exactly the same thing in Clacton. Big promises, national platform, massive campaign energy, and then the moment he won the seat, he vanished. In his first year as an MP, Farage spoke in Parliament fewer times than any other party leader with a seat in Westminster. Just 45 times compared to over 200 for Kemi Badenoch. He initially refused to hold in-person constituency surgeries, claiming the Speaker's office had told him it was too dangerous. That turned out to be completely made up. The Speaker's office had no record of giving that advice, and Farage eventually had to backtrack. His suggestion to Clacton residents was that Zoom is not the end of the world. Imagine that. You voted for a man who promised to fight for you, and then you actually need help. He tells you to get on a video call, which is also really strange because he doesn't like working from home, apparently. And the parallels with Goodwin's are so obvious it's almost like Reform has a playbook for this. Parachute in a big media name, talk exclusively about national grievances, build the campaign on social media hype, win the seat, and then treat it as a platform for your media career rather than the responsibility to the people who elected you. Goodwin is a GB News presenter. He has a Substack with a paying audience. He has books to sell. Do you really think he's going to give up all that to sit in a drafty constituency office in Denton helping people with their bins? And this This is what frustrates me more than anything about this whole by-election. Gorton and Denton has real problems, genuine grinding deprivation, some of the highest levels of child poverty in the country. Nearly half of children in that constituency are growing up poor. A third of households are in fuel poverty. These people deserve an MP who wakes up every morning thinking about how they're going to make their lives better. Instead, what they're being offered by Reform is a television pundit from Herefordshire who sees their community as a stepping stone, who can't name a single local issue in a campaign interview, and who needs bodyguards to visit a place he wants to represent. Matt Goodwin doesn't want to be the MP for Gorton and Denton. He wants to be an MP who happens to have Gorton and Denton's name on his office door, and the people there, they deserve so much better than that.